Welcome, everybody, to the August 6, 2024 meeting. Please silence your cell phones, pagers, and any other electronic communication devices. Agendas and speaker request forms are located at the back of the chambers. The commission utilizes speaker request forms. If you'd like to speak on any item, please complete a speaker request form from located the back bookshelf in the chambers and return it to Commissioner Clerk Geraldine Sistick, located at the lower left side of the dais. This meeting will call the meeting to order, and I'd ask Commissioner Drews to do the moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Drews. Next on our agenda is review and approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Lassiter,
Second.
seconded by Drews. Any public comment? Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next week comes to the consent agenda, and I'll recognize Joan Martin.
Good morning, Commissioners. The Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine items. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the Board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of the board member or a citizen. The consent agenda contains the following items. Item A, minutes from the special meeting held on July 18th, 2024. Item B, minutes from the 2025 budget hearings held on July 8th and 9th, 2024. Item C, minutes from the regular meeting held on July 16th, 2024. Item D, minutes from the special meeting held on July 18th, 2024. Item E, to acknowledge the resolution for a minor adjustment to the road district boundaries of the Clear Creek No. 2 Road District described as Clear Creek Tract 4, located in Section 22, Township 1 North, Range 5 East, Black Hills Meridian, Pennington County, South Dakota, as submitted by the Auditor's Office. Item F, to acknowledge extension of dates of the Notice of Intent to conduct a raffle being held by the Pennington County Republican Party as submitted by the Commission Office. And item G, to approve the 2024 South Dakota Department of Transportation Railroad Weed Spraying Agreement as submitted by Natural Resources.
Thank you, Joan. At this time, is there any members of the public who wish to have any items removed from the agenda? Seeing none, at this time, is there any commissioners who wish to remove any items from the consent agenda for further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved by Roskinek, seconded by Lassiter. Any further discussion?
Mr.
Hearing
Chair.
none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Well,
Mr. Chair, I believe Joan meant to say for item A, minutes of the special meeting July 8th, not 18.
oh, the July 8th?
8th, yes.
Okay. Motion maker is okay with that?
Motion maker's okay with that.
Seconder, with that? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks. This brings us to regular agenda items. We do have two constables here. It's the appointment of County Constable for Legislative District 33. We do have Joss Nazen and John Gloat here. Did you guys want to say anything before we vote on? John?
I've got nothing to say.
You gotta have to come up front. I'd like to stand that far back too, but
I really have nothing to say. I just, Josh is going to come in and take over about 2/3 of my workload. And I'm getting ready to kind of start kicking back a little bit, so,
okay.
long time. So, but other than that, he's got a good background and he'll do good for everybody.
Okay. I read your application. It looks good. Is there any questions from the commission?
Chair,
Ms. Hadcock?
thank you for all you do for Pennington County, John.
Thank you.
Appreciate everything you do and your years of service and everything you've done for us. So, and congratulations on your new job, Josh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll second that. You come to my house a few times too.
Yeah, I
so-
do, don't I? Know where you live.
Yeah, you do. Any further questions?
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
I'd look for a motion.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Drews and seconded by Lassiter to appoint Mr. Josh Neeson for the 2-year term of County Constable in Legislative District 33. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Votes unanimous.
Thank you,
Congratulations.
Josh.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Yeah, I bet.
Ma'am.
Next up brings us up to the Central States 2024 Fair Kickoff, and I'll recognize General Manager Ron Jeffries.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner, Mr. Chair, and members of the commission. Appreciate that. Ron Jeffries, General Manager, Central States Fair. I'm always excited when the rally gets here because it means we're going to get rain and the fairgrounds is going to green up. We've received about a quarter of an inch here this last 24 hours, so it helps tremendously at this time of year. I want to start out, before I go into any detail about the fair, but saying that a number of your departments assist us in planning and prepping and getting ready for the fair. We just had, today is our second day of utilizing some of the people from the Corrections Institute program through Sheriff Mueller's Ignite program. Yesterday came out and raked a lot of our grass areas and cleaned up straw and manure and leaves and debris that are left from horse events all year long. And they got it removed just in time for the rain to get to the grass and soak in perfectly. So we appreciate that program. Of course, they provide us, yesterday we had 6 people that came out, which would have taken my guys, the amount of work they did, I would have had 2 guys working on it for 2 days to equate that. So it's greatly appreciated. And I think we've got some real chance for that program to develop and do some job training skills. So we're excited about that. Also, Highway Department's been out helping us get some ruts taken care of in the parking areas. We appreciate that. Buildings and Grounds does maintenance on a couple of our buildings. Scott was out with weed and pest and sprayed for mosquitoes earlier in the year. So a lot of assistance from your departments that you may not know, and the public may not know, that your departments go above and beyond to help us with the fair. So we appreciate that greatly. Kickoff for the fair, Friday the 16th. We'll do our ribbon cutting at the Monument Health Community Stage. We are just in the process of getting a new shade cover put over that. Should be brand new. Black Hills Energy provided us with some power poles to provide for that shade structure. So we're excited about finally getting some cover under there, other than we've had a tent in the past, but it's only covered a small portion of it, and now we'll have shade throughout the whole area. Of course, that's open to the public. It'll take place at 12:15, and hope to see each of you there. Couple of things I want to note that are just off the beaten path. Of course, we have the grandstand activities. We'll have the Supercross races. New this year, we've got some world-class motorcycle jumpers that will be here coming in and jumping motorcycles throughout the racing event. So should be a real cool addition to that kickoff on Friday night. And then the X-Bronx on Sunday, our prize money's at $126,000, which makes it the single highest payout for any single event in the PRCA for a single day event. Big deal. We'll have a lot of top competitors coming in for that, and that will lead right into our Range Days Rodeo, where we have been not nominated but appointed to be a qualifying rodeo for a $500,000 rodeo that takes place in North Dakota in September. So if you win any of the events at Central States Fair, you automatically get an entry into this North Dakota rodeo that'll be held up in Minot. So it's again, I said it's a $500,000 rodeo that was just created. So that's a real great drawing card for us, which will increase competitors, which increases attendance and excitement. So it should be very cool. I'll also mention that with that, we have the only one of 4 events that the Cowboy Channel is live televised this year. Will be Calgary, which happened. There'll be the NFR in Vegas, and there'll be the Governor's Cup in Sioux Falls in September. And the X-Bronx Finals will be televised live on Cowboy Channel. It's the only 4 they're doing live. So we're really making an impact in that rodeo world where the PRCA, the Cowboy Channel, other entities are recognizing our rodeo and wanting to work with us on things. So it's really exciting. My two new things that we want to mention, one is that we are changing how we do the entrance on the La Crosse Street side, where most of our free parking is, into the fairgrounds. All of our open class exhibits have moved into the Nerdy Nuts building, and we will enter the fairgrounds through the Fine Arts building. So we'll have our gate admission right there. All will call. Traditionally, that's been on the east side of the fairgrounds, so anybody that's ordered tickets or purchased tickets and they're at will call, they will be back on the La Crosse Street side. An important change. It'll take us a couple years for the public to get used to that, but still we think the more space and being able to be in a building undercover, air conditioned while you're waiting in line to get in or anything else is going to be a great improvement. Since we moved open class to Nerdy Nuts, it shifted all of our vendors into the GenPro building. So we'll get full-time use of that building. In the past, we've used it just a couple of days during the fair, but now it's such a nice building in the middle of the fairgrounds, we'll have activity in that every day. We're excited about our lineup. Of course, we've got the Black Hills Energy Concert Series, and I'm not going to go through every detail of that with you, but a very exciting time for us. Ticket sales have been going very well. And then our Carnival Americana, will be rolling in here this week to get set up and prepped and cleaned after the last event and laid out and put up in time for the 16th kickoff. So we're excited about the partnership with them as well. Great chance for the community to come back out and enjoy one last bit of summer. It's amazing how fast this summer went. It was just a blink, and here we are at the fair already. But really an affordable way for families to come out and vacation right here at home. Everything's available online, from ticket sales to schedules at centralstatesfair.com. And I'll stand for questions.
Any questions for Ron?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Roski?
Ron, previous meetings, do you explain how you gauge the economic impact of the Central States Fair? And it seems to me you were going to try a different technique. Could you bring the commission up to speed on that?
Yeah, in fact, I just got my a clean copy. I had copies with notes and things on it, and I didn't want to send that over, but I got a clean copy just last week. I meant to send that to you, but I will email it out when I get back to the office and include the auditor and all of you with it, so.
Super. Yeah, I think it's really important for people to realize the economic impact, not only to the county, but to the city of Rapid City, especially since they rely on the sales tax.
Right, and one of the things that I would mention about that economic impact, in the old days, our last one was 6 years ago, I think. In the old days, when the economists would come in and ask you, whoever's doing the survey, they would say, how many events do you have? How many people attend? Where do they come from? And it's a swag at best. And now that stuff is all dialed in with cell phone tracking. It's scary. I can tell you which hotels travel the most or visited the most during stock show. I can tell you which restaurants receive the most traffic before or after the fair. So it's really scary, the amount of data that they gather now. But they use that to generate these projections. The only piece we couldn't get plugged into that economic impact study was they want to know how much sales take place, like during the stock show. We can tell you what we sell in horses, a couple $1 million, or cattle, but we can't tell you what our vendors sell. And those are economic numbers that don't make the chart, because without each vendor reporting a sales number to us, we have no way of identifying that. But I can tell you that from particularly stock show, not so much fair, a lot of our vendors are from the area, and this is like White Owl. White Owl Boutique has a shop up there. If you've been to White Owl, there's a storefront in White Owl, and they live right there. You can call them up if you stop there and the store's not open. They'll come over and open up for you. But their biggest event throughout the entire year is Black Hills Stock Show. So makes an impact beyond what we would show you in the economic impact report. But
Chair.
Thanks for asking.
Thank you, Ron.
Ms. Hadcock?
I just like that it showcases ag for basically city folk. You can learn a lot about what 4-H is and horses and cattle and all kinds of different events that actually showcase not only what city people like. Well, I think everybody likes the motorcycle, the derbies and everything else, but it showcases a lot of ag for our community and our surrounding areas. So I think that's pretty amazing. And since I've been on this commission, That's what I've liked the best about the fairgrounds, and things that you don't know as city folk, you can learn at the fairgrounds in many different events. You guys have events all year of different basketball for kids, all the way to the firemen do their exercises there, the police departments, and just amazing, a lot of volunteer people that you have, and a lot of people that you let go in there for minimal cost so they can do their events. So I appreciate that, Ron.
Thank you, appreciate
you.
it.
And I will say, Ron, I appreciate, it's a lot of work with volunteers too also. So, but not only that, but the Central States Fair Board put in a lot of hours to make this happen. But I just wanted to highlight the volunteer work that you guys get, not only from jail, but from the community. And I just had this discussion with a guy that's Rocky, who's helps you out. He goes, I'm not free during the fair and the stock show. And he comes in and helps out with your electrical, whatever needs to be done. And he's been doing it for years and he enjoys it. So
Does a great job.
I just wanted to pass on that it shows that he enjoys doing it for you.
Thank you.
So,
I would mention when Commissioner Hadcock talked about Ag Ed, we started an ag education program just a few years ago. That will also be in the Nutty Nuts building. We try to build a little bit on it each year. And 4-H does an excellent job out in their building, all a separate program, but still part of the fair. And they do a great job, and they carry SDSU ice cream.
they do.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Drews.
So Ron, I don't know if people realize how much time and effort your staff and those volunteers actually put in to put this on, but they do an amazing job. And during the fair, I'm always impressed with, I know that you don't have a very large staff, but it seems like every time I turn around, there's another staff member ready to help out, for doing something. So really appreciate their involvement and effort on it. And they deserve some time off after those fairs. So thank you.
Yes, I will say that our newest staff member, Paige Vanderwerf, came to us from Minnesota. She runs our ag ed and all of our livestock and youth events. Just a fantastic young lady, and she hit the ground running. We've had tremendous compliments. We host events every week, multiple times a week. 2 weekends ago, we had 9 events on the weekend. Every corner of the fairgrounds was covered. And I routinely, not once in a while, routinely have those promoters of those events, whether it's a wedding or a horse event, will come back and tell me personally what a wonderful job my staff has done. And I say this in the fair industry, I would put our team up against any other team in the industry. There's cheaper facilities, bigger facilities, nicer facilities, but we get more than our share of the business because of customer service. They do a great job, and great effort from our board of directors and volunteers throughout. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Lester.
I don't know if I can add much more to what has already been said, but I do enjoy coming out there and visiting with the people and seeing all the events and talking to individuals when I'm out there. So keep it up. I'll be out there again this year and roaming around and helping out where I can. So I'd encourage the rest of us to be out there if we can to help out here and there where they need it.
Look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
I got one final comment, is I just want to highlight Jerry Cope, the past president of the Fair Board, because he did some amazing work. And quite shockingly, I got I can't remember the app that he was using to communicate with all of the board members and staff, but that was pretty amazing for that to be going on last year and continuing this year.
Jerry was a remarkable leader. Of course, he passed here early this year, and he is being honored posthumously at the Ag Appreciation event that'll take place Tuesday, prior to Range Days Rodeo at the Community Health Stage. So we're very happy that the group recognized Jerry and his family at that time.
I do too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Ron.
Next, that brings us up to items from the auditor, and I'll recognize Cindy Moore.
Good morning, Commissioners. Cindy Moeller, Pennington County Auditor. First item that we have is a new retail on-off sale wine and cider license for No Bad Days Tap Wagon. We would ask for approval of that license.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Rosknecht.
move to approve the new license for a retail on-off sale wine and cider license for No Bad Days Tap Wagon.
Second.
Moved by Rosknecht, seconded by Laster. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
The next item is license transfer for transfer of retail on-off sale wine and cider license from High Country Guest Ranch under Ventures, Inc., and, or Ventures in the Hills, Inc., to High Country Guest Ranch under Recreational Adventures Company. We'd ask for approval of that license.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Rosknecht.
move to approve the transfer of retail on-off sale wine and cider license from High Country Guest Ranch under Ventures in the Hills, Inc. to High Country Guest Ranch under Recreational Adventures, CO.
Moved by Rosknecht,
Second.
seconded by Drews. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
The next item is the request to declare our tax deed properties as surplus for the purpose of placing them up for the tax deed auction, which we've scheduled for September 11th.
Chair.
Ms. Hadcock.
So Cindy, some of this, can it be used for green space or drainage areas that we need?
It's now required that we put these up for auction annually.
So,
We have to. We can no longer donate them to the city. We used to offer them to the different entities, and we can no longer do that.
well, at this point, we need some green spaces out in Rapid Valley and drainage areas. And I was wondering if any of these that, I don't know if we can buy them back or how that works, because it's huge right now. We're going to form a drainage commission, and there are areas that we need in those districts.
I do, Joe wants to say something.
Good morning, Commission. Joe Miller, Pennington County Highway Superintendent. Looking through these this morning, we didn't get these beforehand or for whatever reason, but there's one on the balance of the Trailwood Village, which appears to be as part of the Hawthorne ditch. I don't know. Typically, we've not put that one up for auction in the past. So that's tax ID 57858. I'd just like a little bit more time to look at that one to make sure we want to get rid of it.
Excuse me, Jay.
Jay Alderman with the State's Attorney's Office. This all comes around from that U.S. Supreme Court decision that led to then South Dakota passing that statute that requires that you auction off the property within a year of the deed being issued to the county. So I don't know how much time of that year do we still have.
I don't know exactly when some of those were taken, I guess, sorry.
But right now, in law, there's no room for anything other than sell it. And so that's what the auditor's proceeding to do. If there's a little bit of time left, can look at something. We're all hoping, we wanted a little bit more direction from the legislature last year on this topic, but it was kind of piecemeal, and so we have this statute. We're hoping for something further in this session to allow a donation, for instance, because that makes sense, and we've done that for years. But right now, our hands are tied with the current legislation in place, and like I say, there's several things that we offered up, and we're hoping, and maybe we can get something done this session.
Follow up if I could. So at the auction, we can buy them, or can we not, as that just looks bad from the county standpoint?
I can't remember if a member of the county can bid at the auction or not. I don't recall.
So Jay, before they come up, and maybe we just have to do things different in development or something, so when drainage, or change something so that drainage areas or areas that would be used for drainage in the future aren't auctioned off because they're not getting taken care of, that they're not paying their taxes on, because that's a normal, we already know that's a normal feat, but those are areas that are well needed in our districts. So I wondered if there was a different way that we could be able to keep these areas for drainage areas, and legally, I don't know if we have to buy them back, or legally, we can tell the developer if it goes back to the county, we're gonna take it. I mean, that's not how you do it, but.
I would like something in legislation that would allow options like that. Or if something doesn't sell at the auction, you try it once and it doesn't sell, or doesn't sell for a minimum bid in statute, then you're allowed to dispose of it as you see fit, such as donate to the city for drainage, or to retain it in the county if we have a reason for a drainage project. But right now, our hands are kind of tied, so let's see if we can't get something done this legislative session.
Okay, and there's no other statutes in there about drainage or anything, lots?
Not that I'm aware of, not with tax deeds.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Mr., you done that?
So
Yes.
Jay,
Mr. Drews.
it was based on 1 year from the time that the,
Yeah, right, the current statute says the county must, the property must be sold within 1 year of the issuance of the deed to the county. It's also true for private owners. So, we issue treasurer's deeds, or they're referred
Right.
to as tax deeds, to private third parties that hold the certificate. They also have that same requirement. Within 1 year of receiving it, they have to sell it. So they don't even get to keep it. That's the current law.
okay. So Cindy, you don't know when that 1 year started?
Yeah, I don't know that Mary has the dates on here of when those, oh, no, she does have the dates that they were taken. 15.
Some were from 2015.
Yeah, some of these were October of '23. So
Oh, really?
they're,
So
yeah.
even the one that Joe talked about is potentially much more than a year old?
Yeah, that one was taken in 2015, and we did offer it up for sale last year when we had our auction, but
Okay,
didn't sell.
okay.
Mr. Chair.
You done, Mr. Laster?
Jay, so it says it must be sold or just must be auctioned? Because I guess if it doesn't sell at auction, then what happens?
The law didn't provide us any guidance, zero, on that question. And so again, we threw out some ideas last year, but it appeared that it might be a little bit overwhelming, all of the what-ifs that us that do this and for years have all these questions. What about this? What about this? We need a provision for that, just like your question, Commissioner Hadcock's question. And it just got to be a little bit overwhelming, necessary, but overwhelming. And so they went with the statute that we have in place, which is kind of just cut and dried. Sell it. Now, to the private, to your point, I think if I recall right, I don't have it in front of me, I think to the county it says must be sold. And I think as to a private party, I think it says must be sold by auction or must be auctioned. It's a little goofy that it creates a slightly different form of sell, depending if you're the government or you're a private party. I'm not sure if that was an oversight or if it was intended that way, but. Yeah.
The reason why I'm asking that question, because if it doesn't sell and it's in our hands, that means we have to continuously put auctions out over and over and over again? Is that how you read it, or do we wait 6 months? I mean, I guess that's my biggest question, is how are we gonna handle this one? I mean, that's, because if we put a reserve on it, that's one thing, but if we don't put a reserve on it, we still don't sell, then are we forced to hold auctions or try to sell it every month, every 2 months, every 3 months?
So the statute says must sell within 1 year, so what if you don't? And that's your question. I would like some guidance that says if you don't, here's your further options. You may keep it, you may sell it at any time, you may donate it. None of that is in statute right now, so we're left guessing. So you could either ignore the sell and see if that becomes an issue. Somebody would probably call you on it. or you keep trying to sell it until we get a new statute in place that says, I got you covered. Here's some options that you can do now. That's where we're at.
I understand that. I guess my question more is, if we put a reserve on it and it doesn't sell, then we put ourselves in a predicament where we may not sell it. I guess my question is more to the aspect of, we shouldn't put a reserve on it so it doesn't look like we're trying to potentially not sell it. You know what I mean?
I get you.
I guess that's where I was trying to go with this, because if we don't sell it and we didn't put a reserve on it, then no one can accuse us of trying to prevent it from being sold, and then now we're in this loop of what do we do?
The theory, as I understand it, is through that case, you would be expected to hold a reasonable sale. We think we are doing that because we hire an auctioneer that professionally does this for a living and gets the word out, advertises it. I don't know if everybody across the state does that. We do that to cover ourselves and have a professional do it, so we can't be accused of not doing it reasonably or making an attempt. So to your point, if you had a minimum bid so high that you're unlikely to sell it or no one bids on it, was that an unreasonable number, which led to a no sell, which then leads to no surplus, which was what that case is all about. So I guess I would say, if you're concerned about that, don't have a minimum bid on it and have it go to auction, and they will get the dollar amount that they can get through a professional auction, and then you go from there. Otherwise, you're right. You're exactly in that position of, did we have a minimum bid that was so high that it was unlikely to sell? Then you're on the opposite end of that spectrum, right? So
Mr. Chair.
maybe the best thing to do is to not have a minimum bid.
Mr.
Have the auctioneer get what they can and create some competition.
Mr. Drews.
Mr. Chair.
I guess I'd be interested really to know whether or not the county could be a bidder in like this particular case. Or if another entity, if the city could be the bidder on that.
I'm pretty certain that a third party, meaning not the county, could be a bidder. I'll have to look into whether or not we can bid on our own auction.
Okay.
But I think a third party, and I think the city, just because they're a government entity, that doesn't matter. They're still a third party. I would
Okay.
think they would be able to put in a bid, but let me look into that,
Okay.
see if I can get
Thank
you an
you.
answer.
Mr. Roskinek.
Mr. Chair, I would think that a auctioneer would prefer an absolute auction without reserve. That way, if something comes back, it's not sold in a year, we did everything we could because we never had a reserve. It was absolute, and let the highest bidder take the property.
I would probably suggest, from what I'm looking at this, where they're also asking for a minimum or no minimum bid, but from listening to Joe, I'd probably suggest a motion on all of them except for that property.
If it's gotta be sold, it's gotta be sold, so I don't know that we have any options that it sounds like, right, so.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I don't believe that we do, just because of what Jay stated, that we're supposed to try and sell it within a year of taking it. And obviously, this one's been on our books for a while,
Okay.
but I still think that in an attempt to follow the statutes, we need to move forward and hold an auction. And because there is so little direction on it, our plan is to just hold an auction annually in September.
Okay, because I was looking at these and I was looking at the assessed value of what each property is located for, but I'm hearing that there's a suggestion of a no reserve. So I'd go to the commission, do they prefer a no reserve auction, or would they prefer to do auctions at the assessed value start? Or have a minimum. It doesn't have to be the assessed value, you could set.
Minimum,
Ms. Hadcock?
minimum, I would think.
You're thinking the minimum as the assessed value?
These are properties that nobody wanted, right? And at this point, we can't buy them. And so we want to let them go, right? Unless we're trying to make it high enough where we end up getting them, or,
What I understand is Commissioner Roskinick is recommending an absolute auction.
That would, correct. Absolute, there's no minimum, no reserve. It's just they sell for what they sell for. And I don't think you're talking about really expensive properties here. But I think if we do that and they don't sell, they can't come back and say your minimum is too high.
Correct. I would agree with that. I think that's trying to navigate this new statute and the limitations that are placed on us. Excuse me. I think that's a good idea.
I'd look for a motion.
That would be my motion to divest ourselves of those properties using an auctioneer under the premise of an absolute auction with no reserve.
And to declare the following properties as surplus for the purpose of that auction, please.
I would read all those.
Yeah. Move to declare the following properties as surplus property for the purpose of placing them up for auction at a tax deed auction on September the 11th, 2024 at 10 a.m. Tax deed ID 44367, Lot 14, Block 8, Farmingdale. Tax ID 45646. 10-foot drainage easement located between lots 1 through 10 is shown on replat of Block 1 in the steel file of plats and registry of deeds records, Block 1, Robbinsdale Terrace, number 2. Tax deed 57858, balance of tract A, Trailwood Village. Tax deed 62629, lot 25, less to east 6.7 feet of Block 11 in Hall subdivision. Tax deed ID 64690, unplatted balance of the southeast quarter, list right-of-way. South half vacated Sunnyside Avenue, vacated Campbell Street, north one half vacated alley, and east one half vacated Riley Street adjacent to said parcel. Section 32 north, range 8 east, tax ID 40885, south 2 feet of lot 14, block 4, Millard Addition, tax ID 45498, 25-foot private roadway between lots A through D of tract 6, Burger subdivision. Tax ID 46687, Eagle Road, a platted 25-foot private road laying between Lot E revised and Lot F revised of tract 6 in line between Lot G and Lot H of tract 6, Burger subdivision. Tax ID 43227, private drive located within Golden Reef Mill site, number 509 is shown on Plat Book 11, page 248, Golden Reef Mill site, MS 509. Tax deed 61028, lot 16, block 1, PLM subdivision, tax ID 619112, lot 2 of block 7, I-90 Heartland Business Park. Tax ID 67844, unplatted balance of the northeast and the northwest of section 24, 1 north, 7 east.
So we have a motion to do absolute auction on those properties,
Second.
seconded by Drews. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next, that brings us up to the fiscal year 2025 county budget. Cindy.
I believe you all have a copy of the approved provisional budget. The only change that I'm aware of that I know that we need to make is to the GIS. I know Joan was awaiting a letter from the city on that, but they have said they would not take the reduced amount that Holly had discussed with one of their staff there when the supervisor got back from vacation. They said no. So we would need to make a motion to increase the GIS budget by $38,162.
$362?
$38,162.
Sure.
Mr. Drews.
Refresh my memory. I was thinking that they had offered to reduce that.
No, Holly called and discussed it with them because it was, I don't remember
Okay.
exactly what the increase was over 24 over, or 25 over 24, but Holly had called and asked if we could kind of work into that increase.
Okay.
And one of the staff members indicated that she believed it would be okay, but when her supervisor got back from vacation, they said absolutely not. The city is also looking at budget constraints, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any further questions for Cindy on that? So we need to increase that $38,162.
That would need to be in the form of a motion, yes.
Okay. Is there any further questions?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Laster?
is this something that has to be due today? I mean, because we have another, don't we have this on our schedule again in the future? Again? I mean,
Yes, yes.
it's
If you
just
would
your-
like to wait to make the changes, yes, you can.
Because, I mean, it's something that we're gonna have to make changes anyway, and well, I shouldn't say we're gonna have to, but we may be making other changes in the future, so, I mean, I just was wondering if there was a deadline for this particular decision today.
You can, Mr. Chair, if I may,
Go ahead.
you can wait until the actual budget hearing in September to make all of your changes. The only problem that I see with that is you're not going to have the numbers before you when you go to approve the final budget.
So we could continue this to the next meeting also.
Yeah, you do not have to make a decision on this particular item today.
Okay.
Chair.
Ms. Hadcock?
So on the wage study, I think that needs to be vetted through the process, and the numbers followed through at that time. At this point, you're at 3.6 for this year, but from the totals that I've seen from 2022 till 25 don't add up to 3.6. It's about 14 million that we've increased in wages. And those are actuals. Well, at this time in 24, they're not actuals, but 22 and 23 is about 8 million. Cindy, actually, you were the one that sent that to us. I know people absorbed it into their budgets, but it also, from 22 to 25, we have 14% in reserves. So we also have buildings right now, from the CARE campus from the start until we bought the building across the street, that has extremely increased our budget in buildings, in FTEs, utilities, insurance, and all those costs have affected our bottom line where we are today. And for me, voting for this budget would just be wrong. We didn't have to use the growth. We didn't have to use all the 6 million in order to move this budget forward. I think there was better means in which to do so. I don't think the wage study was vetted through the process, public process, enough to know all the numbers and what it has cost us so far. At this point, again, the sheet that you got all sent to is, in your actual in 2022 is 50,276,000. And actual in 23, so you had 43 million salary wages, and then it ended up being 50. The actual in 23 was 53. Your adopted, which was a overall 6.9 increase, your adopted in 23 is 55, and then you went in 24 to 61. So if you add that 50 million to the 64 million, that's about 14 million in increases in 3 years. And we can't figure out why we have a 14% reserve. We also have to figure out, just because you absorbed it in your budget and you used them for your unused FTEs to increase your wages, that doesn't make it right. When you have a budget, it's a set budget, and no one had said, all they said is we absorbed it in. We absorbed it in. They didn't tell us why and how they absorbed it in their budgets. So how was almost $12 million absorbed in from 22 to 24? At those increases and those wage increases that we are, they're not sustainable at those costs. We know from the reserves keep dropping, and also the over-collected being down to about 0.93 tells you as well. For me, spending on increased wages, on increased buildings. We started at the care campus. That was $20 million spent just for the care campus. Then we did the BMS building. And we did the public safety building. That was another 10. Then we did the courthouse, another 5. And then we did a courthouse remodeling, doing some more stuff. And then we have a building across the street. And then we have to remodel this building. And then we have a new building to pay for. Okay, where did we get all this money? And do we have to bond? Because I kept saying, I was in for the jail, I was in for the buildings and grounds, because that was well needed. They were buildings and grounds, if you'd have seen where they were at, was horrible. They were in closets. And everybody else, department heads and otherwise, needed more, and those guys kept taking less. So, in their defense, they did well. The jail, I absolutely think we needed the jail, but at this point, I don't think we can afford everything we need for that jail at this point. I think it should have been stop the spending and figure out those numbers and how much those numbers were coming to, because these numbers have changed. I've been here, 9 years, and in 5 years, I don't know how much we paid BKV, but those numbers are huge. And these, we don't have total numbers. We have numbers that keep being sent to us that are new numbers, but what was the old numbers beforehand? In the jail, and I said that before, you're not gonna have enough money for the jail to pay for what you need for the jail, and it was very important to me. But at this point, I don't know the real numbers, and I can't even vote for the jail because you just keep spending on more and more buildings, more and more increased wages, and I don't care whose budget is, not even Pennington County's, you can't afford it. You can't afford that kind of spending and it in the future not affect what's gonna happen, because ask Mr. Davis Purcell about his budget and what's gonna happen with all those increased budgets, or all those increased buildings. The insurance went up. Everything I said since '22 has come to pass, and it's shown from these numbers and these wage increases. And a lot of these wage increases, we know. They were done in executive session and they shouldn't have been. They only know that from comparables, and comparables and market analysis should have never been behind the scenes. We would have known more of these numbers. We just got these numbers probably a couple weeks ago. Thank you, Cindy. And what really makes me sad is, as a team, we absorbed all this cash flow into our budgets with these excessive wage increases. We didn't think twice about the numbers. So for me, this budget is over budgeted. It still has a $6 million deficit. It should have never had to been raised. And if you could absorb those numbers into your budget at 3 to 5 million every year, why not this year? So I won't be voting for the budget. I still think the numbers, when the people get the total numbers, including, like I said, for the wages, we all got them. I think it should be shown to the public at a wage study that we increased it $14 million in 3 years. So that's a huge increase, and it's not sustainable.
I would recommend the GIS be added as a line item at our next meeting. Under budget, Mr. Rossman.
I know there's a lot of concerns about us buying buildings, and we didn't just go out there and buy these buildings because we thought we needed more buildings. We actually hired a professional firm to come in and do a needs assessment. That was 2 or 3 years ago. And they gave us some options, and those options were very expensive. I think we all agree that the county is growing. You see growth every day. Growth, crime's increasing, and I think the buildings that we bought very reasonable. We were looking at the taxpayers' dollars when we bought those, because if we had to sit there in 5 years from now and have to replace those buildings, you would be talking millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. What we did as a commission, I think we looked after the taxpayers' dollars, knowing that when we bought those buildings, we were getting a good deal, still trying to maintain the campus where it is relative to the 14 St. Joe. If the county isn't growing, we wouldn't need the buildings. But I think we all agree that we know that growth is happening, and we're just trying to be proactive instead of reactive.
Chair.
Mr. Chair,
I'm going to go to anybody else that wants to speak first.
Sure.
Mr. Drews.
I want to just clarify that, personnel issues on individuals are discussed in executive session. But I think any wage adjustments or increases were done from this desk. I don't think there was anything hidden from the public as far as wage increases or adjustments. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Laster, do you have anything you want to say before I go back second time for Commissioner Hadcock?
Mr. Chair, I will just point out, thanks for this, Cindy. I was looking at some numbers and stuff, but from the adopted to the actual budgets, I mean, there's a big cushion in there. If we didn't have such a big cushion, maybe our budget would line up a lot better. Seems like there's a lot of cushion to me. 5.7 million cushion in 2023, $8 million cushion in 2024, and then when you look at our actual spent, we spent $8 million less in, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong number. I see 23, 24, 22, 23. I thought I was counting them both ways, but 2023, there was a lot of cushion in there about, never mind, I had my two columns mixed up. Ixnay on my comments. I had columns mixed up.
You done? Ms. Hadcock?
Okay, so you say you had a lot of growth. You better look at the numbers, commissioners, of the growth of the county compared to the growth of the buildings and stuff you bought, because you're way exceeding the growth of these buildings compared to the growth of the county. So that's not true. It's written on paper. If you look at your finance report. You also, if you think you need buildings, I think I need buildings. I think I need more buildings. Deb Hadcock needs lots of buildings. I need to make some more money, and I got more services that I have to provide, but I have to be able to afford them. So we started out with American University, relocation of SAO and PD, cab office, the public safety building, the courthouse remodel. We're talking 36 million. Then we added what we have today. So what is exceedingly the amount that we have spent since then? 80 million, 90 million? And you think that's the growth, or that's what we needed in Pennington County? I would need stuff as well if I thought I needed it in 5 to 10 years, but we're not paying for it, taxpayers are. That's a lot of buildings. That's a lot of cost for them to suck up. And wage increases for adjustments and different things can be behind the scenes. This depends on what those are. The sheriff's office was very up straight with everything they did, but a lot of the stuff wasn't up straight and behind the scenes, because you cannot legally, and we know that, do wage comparables and market analysis. The elected and not elected officials, I've never seen it done behind the scenes and coming out on, just because you voted on it after executive session. We are here to be open and honest to the public. So not to put it on an agenda and vote on it, I can tell you up straight, never done it that way. And to say it was not, and it was done right, how come nobody knew about it until this election? So when the public doesn't know that 17 people got over 100,000 in wage increases, meaning make over $100,000, didn't say they didn't deserve it. I didn't vote for them because they should have been up front, and the public should know when you vote on those kind of increases from $10,000 to $50,000, they should be up front. They were not. We know that now. We know that from, again, this election. People are mad about us buying buildings and the increases. And for me, I'm not mad, I'm sad, because we are a team here, and this budget is reflecting on what we're spending. So,
Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
Just as a reminder, we do have Buildings and Grounds FY 25 FTE requests, and then following that, any and all items related to preparation for the budget. Mr. Roskinek.
If I recall, I think this commission voted to hire the firm to do the needs assessment. With that being said, we signed the contract with this particular company to come here and tell us the needs, not just the needs for today, but they said, you need to be looking out 15 to 20 years. So yes, the buildings that we bought, yeah, they're here today, but they're also the square footage needed to look at the needs of the county going out 15 to 20 years. So I've said this many times. I think a lot of the stuff that we've done relative to the buildings and planning ahead, it's going to be the future county administration is going to thank us for what we did today. And it's, unfortunately, that's just the cost of doing business.
Okay, I'm going to move on to Buildings and Grounds Fiscal 2025 FTE requests.
Obvious from your budget.
Okay, good morning, Commissioners. Davis Purcell, Buildings and Grounds Director. I can certainly answer some more questions on anything Buildings and Grounds related after I visit this memo, if needed. So, in the initial budget hearings, I asked for 5 new FTEs, 2 maintenance technicians, and then 3 custodians. I withdrew that request in hopes of the wage study being approved, because these positions that I'm asking for are also the ones that we have the most trouble filling. So with that, I was not here for the June 18th meeting, but I appreciate the support you guys gave towards Buildings and Grounds for me to come back to the podium and ask for these FTEs again. So what I did was I broke it down. What I'm going to be looking for or hope to get is our 3 custodians for 900 concourse. I think with the wage study, if we can fill our open positions, the open positions we have for the maintenance technicians, we can accommodate 14 St. Joe and concourse into our existing operations without needing to hire those maintenance technicians right away. And the fact is, we're not occupying concourse until late 25. So again, you can see here it's broken down for the 3 custodians. 1 is a team lead, and all 3 of these would be stationed out at concourse. The rates are based off of the wage study. The hire date there is July 1. So obviously, there will be an increase in next year's budget to accommodate these employees for an entire year. But to reduce the impact now, you can see the total impact for 2025 would be $90,621. And if you look on the second page there, that's a difference of $105,231 to our budget. So I guess with that, I'll stand for any questions on the memo.
Thank you. Any questions?
Chair.
Ms. Hadcock?
Unfortunately, Mr. Davis, if the budget was different, I'd give you FTEs first, because every year you guys seem to stuck up more and more, and Mike Kuehl obviously did the job of 3 people. And we found that out, and you're probably finding that out now. But at this time, unfortunately, I can't give those and approve on those FTEs, even though they're well needed in your department, just because of where our budget's at. But I truly believe that you're one department that has sucked it up over the years, and I appreciate everything that your people in Buildings and Ground have done for us.
Is there any further questions for Davis from the commission? Davis, my comment would be I appreciate all the hard work that you're doing, and I think bringing this forward after listening to the last meeting, you were doing what was asked, I think. And so I think at this point in time, I think we just probably carry this back on to throughout the budget process.
Sure.
So things could change by the 3rd of September, but I haven't heard any comments yet, so I think the commission may still want to absorb some of this and take a good look at it.
Okay.
Any further questions for Davis? Seeing none, thanks, Davis. Next on, is there any other thing? Go ahead, Cindy.
I was just talking to Davis.
Oh.
I'm good.
Is there any additional information the commission wants to be brought forward at the August 20th meeting?
Chair,
Ms. Hadcock?
I asked Cindy and Mr. Davis if they would start from the CARE campus on how much money we have spent for BKV, for designs, or any cash that we used, whether it be donated or not donated from either ARPA or other donations, and the bonds that we used, how much we used on bonding for these buildings since we started with the CARE campus. Just to see the total amount that has been spent on buildings in the last, I don't know, when did CARE campus come? 5 years ago, Cindy? Be nice to know all those numbers, plus the furniture, plus the insurance that went up, plus the FTs we have to get, just to maintain Pennington County with all the buildings we have.
So this was a request, Cindy?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's what she's requested, is that we gather that information.
And from my gathering, we need a motion to gather that?
If the board would direct me to work on all of those numbers, yes, please.
That'd be my motion.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second discussion.
I just think the more information we get, the better, and the more informed we can be if we decide we need to make cuts, or if we decide to move forward with any particular spending.
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
I
Roskin?
understand it, then we're looking at what the CARE campus cost the county in dollars and cents, furniture, building, upkeep, utilities. My question would be, what did the CARE campus save the county? Because the folks that go to that CARE campus ain't going across the street and spending where it costs $100 in excess to put them on a bed where they can be in that CARE campus a lot less cheaper. So there's two parts to that story. And we need to keep in mind that there's a savings in that CARE campus relative to the expense of putting them in those beds over at the CARE campus opposed to the county jail.
Any further questions, Cindy?
Well, Mr. Chair, I was just going to make a comment. I guess that's kind of why I stated that getting that information gives us an idea of what we need to cut or what we need to keep, because then we have a broader overview and understanding.
Correct, and I just think we need to look at both sides.
So we do have a motion on the floor. Could you clarify your motion for me, Ms. Hadcock?
We're looking at the cash flow basically we spent on buildings, FTEs, insurance, kind of like we were going to do before we started this process. So total amount from now till what we're spending until 25 through 25. It'd be nice to know those numbers with the FTEs, insurance. I think we should have known that beforehand, even on these buildings. So my bottom line is when you're buying, and I apologize.
Need a motion.
Hold on a sec. Can I explain why I'm asking this?
Well, I'm trying to clarify the motion.
I know you're trying to get a motion, but I'm trying to clarify why, if I could
I
finish.
think you made the motion. I think he's trying to clarify what you
Yeah, that's-
stated in
Okay.
the motion.
Yeah,
But what I'm saying this for is maybe someone could add, or I'm missing something. Because we started buying buildings from the CARE campus till now. What are those costs? How did we pay for them? Was it, when I'm seeing a paper like this, it doesn't have all the numbers. So we did a needs assessment, right? And this is your needs assessment. Then you have your bottom line. But this bottom line has changed since I've started at least 5 times. Those BKV costs add up every time. When we switch and change things, I have 3 sets right here. I don't have and then 4 with the one we set now, from jail costs to public defender's office costs to the buildings changing. I don't even know where we're at. How much have we spent from the CARE campus to all the changes we have made, and where do we get the money from? I know For Care Campus, we got some funding from Ray Hillenbrand. We got some ARPA funds that we paid stuff. So we can see the bottom line. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay. Do the best you can.
I can go and visit with her afterwards.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Drews.
I'm not clear of what really is being asked, and it looks like a astronomical amount of work and information to be collected in a short period of time. I just don't want to put that burden on Cindy or Davis or anybody else in trying to come up with those numbers. And I think Commissioner Ross Connect is correct. I mean, you got to look at both sides relative to the Care Campus for sure, so.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Laster.
actually, I think it was laid out in the motion almost kind of clear, but all those numbers we would already have. They're the numbers we've had over the last years, the cost of the building, the cost of the utilities for a particular building. Those dollar amounts are, I mean, I'm no Excel whiz, but I know Cindy is. Those numbers could be pulled, okay, maybe you're not that big of a whiz. You just gave me this look, so. It's just given the numbers of how much we spent for utilities for each building that was requested and things of that nature, and then we can deduce out of that the information that we, reviewed. I think that's all that she was asking for. I don't think she was asking for a big, and Cindy, unless you heard it differently, I don't think she was asking you for a big comparison of anything. It was just data. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, if I may. That's partially what I understood, but I think she was also wanting a comparison of how far what has changed over the years. And it would be a big undertaking because it's not all laid out already in data. I mean, we would have to go digging through our financial system, pull up the invoices, go back and dig through receipts to find the offsets. We don't track those like that in our system. So it'd be looking through one set, looking through another for every year that we did something. So it would be.
Travis has the floor.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. So something, without getting that detailed into on all those offsets, the way I understood the offsets, again, why I seconded it was more of offsets from grants. If, for example, Care Campus, it cost, I'm just throwing just make-believe numbers because I don't know, it cost $20 million, but we got $18 million in grants. I mean, that would be the offset, so it only cost the county $2 million. I didn't take it as looking for every offset through those receipts. I just, in general, bulk numbers is what I was understanding. I just kind of want to put that out there. That's what I was thinking.
Ms. Hadcock.
So Chair, what I'm saying that is because I think the public in general needs to know that amount, and I see why 3 don't want to vote that way, and I'm good with that. I'll look for myself, and then you can take those numbers and I'll tell the public, and I'll have my numbers, just like you guys are doing. You want to call this a burden. So you spent $17 million.
Point of order, nobody said this was a burden.
Yeah, you did. One of you guys did. I wrote it down. Gary did. So you let him say that, didn't you? Okay, thank you. So then that was $37 million without the jail done. That was the next bond that came across. That was, we borrowed 45, then we had 42, so that's $79 million. Okay, that's just low cost because I don't have all the numbers yet. I don't have the insurance that went up. I don't have the FTEs. I don't have the utilities. And that's a burden for you to figure out. I'll figure it out.
Okay.
I appreciate the vote that when you guys need something, it's done, but when we need something, it's not okay. Thank you, Cindy. Actually, on the $14 million that was spent on wages in the last 3 years, that was never told to us. So now we don't know what the building costs are. We know they're at least $80 million so far from just the Care Campus on to here. That's a low estimate. There comes to a point where people have to look about how much you're costing people and their property taxes, and everybody was saying they were going to all these property tax meetings and they would lower them, and they would try to keep the budgets online, and the legislator is gonna do some manipulating, or however they say it, to make sure the budgets get low. But we are overspending on wages and buildings, and we think it's a burden to our auditor, who's supposed to have the numbers and can run the numbers, to do this, so we can tell the taxpayers, hey, we actually only spent 40 million because we use them for ARPA and everything else, and we do have other costs and savings that we use for this, but we don't want to know that. That sounds pretty,
Okay,
Bad.
moving on.
Mr. Chair, I might add, and I've seen this in emails from Cindy, I think it's all obvious that we cannot sustain Pennington County going forward with just real estate taxes. We all agree real estate taxes are too high, me included. We need to figure out other funding sources for this county, other funding sources for the school districts. That's where the problem lies. It isn't buying buildings and trying to do the best that we can for the county. We need to sit there and speak to the folks in Pierre and lobby for a sales tax or some other alternative means of funding the county, because it's just getting to the point where you can't sit there and sustain this county with real estate taxes only.
Thank you. And the reason I didn't vote for the motion on the floor is because that's why I asked for clarification, and I didn't get clarification. I got quite a bit more, so that's why I didn't. So we're going to move on now.
Sure.
Mr. Drews?
You asked about more information for the next meeting. I still have questions on the fire administration on both sides, both for the general reserve and for the operating budget. Just doesn't appear that the operating budget is going to be sustainable, and I think we need some answers there as to how they're going to move forward with that, because they're operating off of their reserves there. And secondly, on the general reserves of, that would put that at $600,000. And I just think that's more than what's needed there. I think if they really truly had a emergency, they could come back to the commission, and it would be something that we'd probably have to take from our reserves to meet that emergency. But I don't think we need that money just sitting there, that amount of it, so.
Okay. Any further discussion on that?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Laster?
can you clarify that? What money are you specifically talking about, Mr. Drews? I just don't have that chart in front of me. Is it on one of the ones, or is it just from the ask of the fire?
Are you talking about the general reserve? The request that was 200,000 additional, and they cut it by 100,000, but that would take that general reserve to $600,000 for them, is my understanding.
Right.
And I just think that's more than what needs to be in that for emergencies.
And Mr. Chair, are we seeing a pattern of cost for emergencies at different times that justify less than that? I'm just asking the question.
Well, I don't think we're seeing costs that justifies going up to that high.
Gotcha. Because I just wondering, because I know we've had a couple fires that we've had to deal with, or incidences, and I just don't, did we ever get the numbers on those incidences so we know what it cost us initially? I mean, I'm open to looking at it. I'd just like to know what the cost of those incidences that we've responded to, that he needs to be able to draw that money right away and then get refunded back or whatnot.
Mr. Chair, if I may. Since we've started putting money into an assigned reserve in the general fund for fire, we have not done a supplement for any expenditures. That help?
Does that mean we haven't spent any of that money?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think we're good.
Okay, the only thing that I'm going to do is do what I know is necessary with the GIS, and I'll bring that revised provisional to the August 20th meeting.
Yep. Thank you, Cindy. Next, that brings us up to item number 9, items from Buildings and Grounds. And I'll recognize Davis Purcell, and Construction Manager Kevin Burton.
Good morning, Commissioners. Again, Davis Purcell, Buildings and Grounds Director. So this is, we're requesting an award for a commissioning agent for the jail tower project. I am not near as keen on commissioning agents as Kevin is, as I've not worked with him in the past, but with projects as complex as this jail tower, I do believe they'd be a valuable asset for this project, and Kevin can talk more about what they will do for us.
Kevin.
Morning, Commissioners. Kevin Burton, Construction Manager. Commissioning agents are kind of like the relationship counselor for a project. They design elements focus on their specialty. An electric engineer focuses on their product. An HVAC engineer focuses on their product. But all of these systems all integrate with each other. And the commissioning agent is the one that makes sure that all of those relationships, all of those interactions between all of those different systems, especially in a jail where you've got security electronics, cameras, all of the different HVAC systems and the controls and all of that, the commissioning agent makes sure that all of those work efficiently and correctly before we actually open the building. If you don't have a commissioning agent on board, you're relying on the installer and the engineer to self-commission, and that becomes somewhat of a battle between the engineer and that installer to say that they did it right, whereas the commissioning agent is a third party that helps promote and make sure that the changes are made correctly and that all the systems work correctly. They also look at the building envelope and a bunch of other design elements. So for the cost of the commissioning agent, they generally will save that fee over the life of the project multiple times over, just in change orders or time involved in trying to correct items that weren't integrated correctly at the onset. So we did go through a RFP process. We had 2 responses, one from there's no commissioning agents in South Dakota, so we broadcast nationally. We got quite a few questions, but only 2 people actually sent in proposals. Tune Facilities is out of Omaha, Nebraska, and they've got a very wide range of people that do this. They're a specialized commissioning agent company, and that's all they do. So I would request a motion to approve their contract for $89,344.
Mr. Chair.
Is there any questions? Mr. Laster.
All right, I have a question. Are we getting ahead of ourselves if we haven't come up with a plan yet or anything for the jail? I know we've had a lot of conversations, a lot of discussions, or some new updated numbers out there. I just want to make sure that we're not getting the cart ahead of the horse if we already have some of this stuff going, and then if we haven't moved forward with signing a building contract or whatever to move forward with, that we're not bringing somebody on ahead of time before we even to that point.
We like to bring in we've added design assist partners with the construction manager. So we have HVAC, we have electrical, we have plumbing, we have the commissioning agent, we got security detention contractor, and we got security electronics contractor. They've all come on to help through the design process to find out what the best product is, what the best availability is, how we can do things the most economical, all of those kind of things. The commissioning agent is just that added partner that would come in and help that relationship between all of those other entities actually mesh.
In the design phase before we finalize what we're going to say we want to do.
Yeah, so what happens is if you bring them in early, they're able to quell some of those conflicts through the drawings. They can see it, they can observe it, they can, through discussion and through the design process, they can actually make those corrections before we ever get to the end of the project. A lot of times people bring in a commissioning agent at the end of the day, so the project's done, they bring in the commissioning agent, they review everything, they find all of these problems, and all of those need to be corrected before we can occupy the building, or the building's not functioning correctly. Well, that could add general conditions, that could add change orders to people saying, no, we built it right, but the commissioning agent says it's wrong. By bringing them on early, we avoid a lot of that. So at the end of the project, we don't have any of those delays. They're constantly checking the drawings through the design process and then through the entire construction process, instead of just at the end.
And if I could add one thing to that, also, we have to have a viable design and, at least 50% CD construction documents to be able to get more firm numbers at what we're looking at. So by bringing this commissioning agent in, we'll be able to refine a lot of those numbers as well with our pre-construction team, with Skull, and get a better idea of what we're looking at for this project. So these are, a commissioning agent is valuable. And also, like, this is for a total contract cost for them. They'll be billing us as they work with us. So we're not just paying this full amount up front either. So just to make that clear.
This takes us all the way through construction.
All the way through, yep.
Chair.
Travis still has the floor.
So from now until, if the project takes 4 years, that's the total amount of cost?
That's the total fee.
Okay.
Yeah. Based on the scope that we're looking at today, which is just a single level jail and minor modification to the existing jail.
Follow up to that one, then I was almost done. So then if it happens to be multiple layers, this cost is going to go up.
All fees will go up. A designer, we asked for this, we asked for A, and if we are going to increase it to B, C, or D, everybody's entitled to the additional fees to actually design it for those additional layers.
And is this cost a percentage of the total cost of the construction plan?
It's still a very vague construction number and budget because we don't know. The bids we got, the initial proposal we got from Skoll based on the schematic design is already above what we have budgeted for the project. So we're trying to find remedies for that. But when we look at our initial budget of 28 to 32 million, it's a $90,000 bill.
I understand that, but I guess what I'm saying is the 89, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think some of the other design costs are like a percentage of the total potential build out. Is this a percentage of that, or where does this flat rate come from?
This is based on their site visits, their review, their checks. It's not a percentage based, it's based on an hourly rate, factoring how many visits they're gonna come and how many reviews they're gonna put into it.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Adcock.
Wow. We keep getting fees and BK fee, redoing plans because we're not having enough cash flow. At this time, if I'm correct, we do not have enough cash flow to build the jail. I think we ought to finish the buildings we have, see what those total amounts of costs are on the taxpayers, and then see what we have left for the jail. Instead of moving forward on another project with not knowing the whole total amount of this, because there keeps being fees, redesigns, and then talk of 42 million, 44 million, 32 million. It's the same with all these sheets. This is only 3 of them that I got. There comes to a point on spending that the numbers aren't all adding up that you guys keep bringing forth. They don't have all the costs that you guys have spent. And Kevin, you are a project manager. My husband's a project manager. And he can do the big projects and he can do the stuff, he might ask the questions, but we keep getting more people with fees that we're bringing in because we can't do, so that adds costs. We keep changing the plans with BKV, so that costs. How many times have we changed this? Since I've been around, those 3, that's 5 times that this jail project and the costs have changed. I know they changed because of, I don't know, people working, how many people we can get to do the jobs, that kind of stuff. But I've never seen projects done this way in my entire life of watching projects. I'll just tell you, Kevin, the numbers have not added up correctly in the end, and they keep changing. I get the change, except that we're adding more fees and firms. There's been no flat numbers, and I know it takes a while to do all that, but I've never seen 5 different papers for what we're doing. And then telling us that 89,000 or $300 or 300,000 discrepancy or not discrepancy, discretionary, and I've never heard that before since I've been in. Those are called change orders or if this was my building, I'd have the numbers, I'd have the people, and I'd have it done. I wouldn't keep changing it. I think some of it's because you don't have enough money to finish what you have. I don't think the jail has enough money, and I don't think still we have enough money to finish the buildings we have. I think people's budgets are having to suck up some of finishing some of these budgets. You have $6 million in a cumulative building, and you have $1 million in yours. In the past, we've used all of Mike's budgets. Mike was great. He didn't need a project manager and another manager and a fee guy, and then he had BKV. That's one thing about Mike he had straight. He didn't have change orders, discretionary funding. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen. I'm going to be voting no.
Mr. Chair.
Let me make one comment first before I go to you, Ron, I think this is a smart move myself. After working on a project that we are currently working on that's been going for 3 years, you have to look for those problem areas that are going to happen, that if you don't have someone to make everything work, creates a lot of havoc, and you can't schedule the people in on time, ordering the stuff, and so I think this is a positive point and a smart approach to the project. Mr. Roskinek.
A couple things. The first, I think we all want to know exactly a firm cost of this jail, whether we can afford it or not. We still need to know some good numbers. To me, this is just part of the process to guide us to those numbers. Second of all, I would like Kevin and his department to take the 2 properties that we purchased in good faith and take the total price, deduct the value of the land, and tell the county what we paid per square foot for the building area. 36,000 square feet for 14 St. Joe and 76,000 square feet for Concourse. And then if you could go out 5 years, take the cost today, increase it 3% annually, go out to 7.5 years. Tell the county what they'd be paying in 7.5 years for that same building.
Are we going to vote on that? Are we going to vote on that?
I'm talking,
There's no
I know.
motion.
Just wondering if we're voting on that, sir. That's what you told me.
He didn't interrupt you when you were speaking, so please be respectful. Be respectful, let them speak.
Want to try that, Lloyd?
well, it's a two-way street, so I think we need to know those numbers too.
Of course we do. We need your numbers, not mine.
Please.
Mr. Chairman, do you have a
Well,
motion?
let's be fair.
No motion.
Mr. Chair.
'Cause I asked.
Mr. Drews.
I would move to authorize Kevin Burton, Pennington County Construction Manager, to sign an AIA C-103-2015 agreement between owner and consultant for an amount of $89,344 for commissioning services as outlined in the request for proposal, any addenda and proposed received.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Laster.
Well, I do see the benefit in this. Again, I think we haven't done enough to work on our current budget to encourage more spending at this point in time. So I'm going to be a no purely because we haven't done enough to work on our budget to bring it in where it probably should be for 2025. So while I agree this might be a great investment for the project, certainly somebody who understands how to bring all the entities together to make sure that there's no conflicts. I mean, that's important, but we also have to understand where we're at in the budget for the citizens, so.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Burton.
If, one quick comment, Commissioner Laster. This is coming out of the Capital Projects Fund, out of the bond. So the general budget that you guys are working on currently isn't really affected by this. This was designated for the capital construction projects that we have. So that's where I'm looking at it from, not from an overall county budget, but basically just from that capital projects. The reason we bonded was to try to get some of these projects done, and so we could actually understand the true scope and cost, because everything we've been running at this point has been a rough order of magnitude. They're just been design concepts and ideas. Now we actually have a focus, and we're moving forward to define the entire scope. And I'd just like to be able to make sure that we get that all coordinated correctly and a good number so that we can come back here in good faith and say this is what it actually costs.
And one other thing, I was speaking with the sheriff here a few minutes ago. We are going to come in the first meeting in October. We'll have a presentation on where we're at so far with the jail project. Hopefully have some more updated numbers. We have asked Skull to give us basically a scope of what we can accomplish with what the funds we have available now, and then also some other options that we're going to look at. So we will bring that back in the first week of October.
Thank you, Davis.
Here,
Ms. Hadcock.
so taxpayer dollar is taxpayer dollar, Kevin, whether it's spent on a 89 on a jail or 89 on finishing projects. So, and the other thing is I like this commission at this 3-2 vote to make sure that we're fair and just to everybody on this commission, because what
Point of
happens.
order.
No, you're not going to have a point of order.
Yes,
Can I finish?
Chairman,
Because when I
I-
ask questions
we
to
make
things
a
to be
vote on
done,
it.
Lloyd, you do
No.
not. So you're not fair and just.
Point of order.
Is this because I'm the only girl on here and
No.
you can't vote differently?
See,
Or is
you-
it just that 3-2
Point
vote?
of order
going?
means you stop talking, you hear why.
No, it doesn't, because
it
you
does.
interrupt me all the
Mr. Chair, I'll
time.
call the question.
Yeah, you interrupt me all the time.
Question's been called.
But Ron can
Is there
say
a
whatever he
second?
wants.
Second to call the question. No discussion?
Tired of the nonsense.
All in favor indicate by saying aye for call
Aye.
the question. Aye.
Oh,
One no,
No.
2 noes for call the question. That brings us to the item on the floor, which is approval. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
no.
1 no or 2?
That was 2.
2 noes on item 9.
Treat everybody the same,
Thank
please.
you, guys. Next up brings us up to items from Highway Department, and I'll recognize Superintendent Joe Miller.
Good morning, Commission. Joe Miller, Pennington County Highway Department. In front of you here is something that we do every year. Purchase road salt for de-icing of our roads, county roads during the wintertime. This, on average, we purchase about 1,000 tons every year. With the winter that we had last year, we're about 75% full with our sand salt currently, but who knows what this winter is going to bring. So I'm happy to present that the price per ton has actually gone down $3.46 a ton from 23 to 24. So it went from 98.87 to 95.41, and we purchase off the state contract every year. And Nebraska Salt and Grain has graciously agreed to provide us salt off of that contract. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions for Joe?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Lester?
move to authorize the Highway Department to purchase road salt from Nebraska Salt and Grain, Gothenburg, Nebraska, off the state of South Dakota contract 17883.
Second.
Moved by Laster, second by Hadcock. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Next is item is number 11 is the vouchers.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Laster.
move to approve the voucher for Rose Inn LLC in the amount of $220. Hadcock to abstain.
I abstain.
Second.
Moved by Laster, seconded by Roskinek. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2,
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Laster.
move to approve the remaining vouchers in the amount of $589,197.12.
Second.
Moved by Laster, seconded by Drews. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, that brings us up to item 12, items from the public. This is a speaker request. Form is required at the time the members of the public discuss or express concerns to the Board of Commissioners on policies and issues affecting county government and its function. Action will not be taken during this section, and any items brought forth that are not properly noticed. Speakers under this section will be recorded in the minutes by name of interest, and I do not have no speaker request forms. So that would bring us, I would look to take a 10-minute recess to set up for planning and zoning.
I'll second.
Moved by Drew, seconded by Roskinick. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, we'll come back into session. I did get notification, commissioners, that we did have a speaker request form, but I think they came in late and didn't know they were supposed to have one before. Okay, so I'm going to ask the commission to suspend rules and retake up item number 12, items from the public.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Drew, seconded by Roskinick. All in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Mr. Chair, correction, that was Lassiter, second.
I heard 2 seconds.
I didn't, okay, sorry.
That's why so we do have that. All in favor, everybody said aye. So we did vote on that already.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So is it Sandra? Sandra and Patty? Oh, it does have. The commission's decided to suspend the rules and let you guys speak so before we move forward, so you guys can both please come up.
That's the first time I've ever been at one of these meetings.
Okay. Did you hear me read the,
Well, it said in there, it wasn't very clear.
I'm gonna read the public comment one more
Okay.
time for you. It's items from the public, SDCL 125-1. Speaker request form required at the time the membership of the public to discuss or express concerns to the Board of Commissioners on policies and issues affecting county government and its function. Action will not be taken during this section on any issue brought forth and not properly noticed. Speakers under this section will be recorded in the minutes by name of interest, area and interest. So this is, I'm having a hard time reading your writing. But I'll let you recognize, you say your name and your reason.
Okay. My name is Sandra McLean. I'm Patty Songstead.
Okay.
We're residents of the area of Rockerville, Keystone, and also Hill City. We gathered 385 petitioners who are just as angry about the raise in the budget as well. And I want you to understand, I'm also a town trustee. In April, I was the board president, and I wrote a letter to the governor. I have placed this, and she accepted it, read it. But in the process, we were promised that certain things were going to happen, and they have not happened. And that's why we are here, to let you know how we feel. And if you just have a moment, it won't take very long, but I'm taking a portion of the letter that I wrote to Christy Nome. And I'm writing this letter as a trustee member and the president of the town board of Keystone. The information that I'm providing is a major concern in the few communities that I am representing. It is a tax relief for an identified area of the Black Hills, which is being unfairly taxed with property tax in the Pennington County area. The residents of Keystone, Rockerville, Hill City, and surrounding areas outside of those municipalities are facing a crisis. Our property tax assessments have skyrocketed to levels that many of us can no longer afford. This is not just a financial issue, it is a matter of being able to keep up with our homes. I'm also a business owner, so is Patty, and we can't even keep up with our costs. Just as Deb Haddock had said, is basically we have to go up on our wages, and we have to absorb it into the business so that we're in the red. And you have to understand the high assessments are causing taxes to increase so drastically that many people are struggling to cope with the burden alongside other inflationary costs. Without an accompanying increase in wages, these mounting expenses are becoming unbearable for our hardworking South Dakotans. And we've been here for 30 32 years plus. Our communities have been hit harder in the above communities than most. We're experiencing large percentages of increases than other areas in the Black Hills without seeing any improvement in services from Pennington County. It feels as though we're being taxed out of our homes. We have a lot of senior citizens in our community. 61% poverty level in Keystone. Maybe you're unaware of that, but people cannot live during the non-tourism types of the year. The older citizens who have been here for years are not affording being in their home. This is the number one problem that citizens are talking about in all these small communities. And the reason we wrote this letter to the governor is to express how dangerous this is becoming. And it's forcing people in our community alone in Keystone. We have dropped from 340 to 270. And basically is because vacation homes are being purchased, the real estate market is rising. We cannot afford those costs. And what I guess I'm seeing when we look at the county commission, you keep rising it and rising it. There does need to be an alternative form. But when we're promised that there are going to be hearings in the summer, and I contacted Trish Ladner, and she said, oh, well, we moved that to the fall. When are they going to deal with it? We need to, this is a serious problem, you guys, and you're forcing people out of business. And everyone has to pull back. The town of Keystone cut their budget, and you guys are increasing yours. Yes, we had a raise, but we're being very moderate about what we're spending. And we're asking those questions that Deb is asking. Don't get upset about it. Deal with reality. And Patty can give you what the reality of her situation is right now.
It's devastating. Where our house payments have gone up $1,200 a month. We bought a meager little piece of land in the woods years ago because that's what we could afford. Our home, we moved an old house onto our land, refurbished it. Now our house is priced at God only knows. We're being priced right out of our community. My husband's 65, he's losing his hearing. We can't work like this anymore to give you guys our money. We can't do this, we can't continue. We are burdened and we need you guys to go to work.
Yeah, and you guys, her reaction, my reaction is the same with those other
It's
385.
our neighbors, it's all of our friends. And we hear from Trish, oh, it's happening everywhere. Well, let's let it begin with us. Let's change something. We don't have the money to invest in more real estate. We don't have the money to spend because you guys have our money and you're doing with it what you choose and not consulting us and not asking us. What do you think?
And you guys, I know all the rules. I didn't like civics when I was in high school, but somehow I got into politics. And it's because I'm listening to the people. And that's what I appreciate about Deb. You shouldn't have the friction on your board. Don't fight, don't argue, talk about it. Because that's what we did, and you just have to talk about it. And I'll tell you, there's so many people out there that are crying right now, and I guess we're speaking for them. And when we make the attempt and they tell us to go to Pier, we went to Pier, got no response. We got the person who said they were going to have meetings. They didn't. Now, we're feeling left out, like we have no other means, so I guess that's why I'm coming here. I used to be a school teacher for 35 years. I know how the school district spends their money. They go to the very end and spend everything. Nothing is saved. I am a counselor. I was a counselor. I know how to mediate and work with people. And then that's probably why I got on the town board. But I go out and talk to the people to see how they're feeling. I don't feel you guys know how people are feeling at this point, and that's why we're trying
No.
to say this. Another letter that was written, she's our reporter, but she's also a landowner. She's feeling the exact same way. And it's a bunch of angry people. And you guys, it's going to end up in a revolt if you don't do that. And those people, I feel sorry for. These are people that are in their homes for 60 years and they're losing it because they are on a fixed
That's where you
income.
get suicide and you have all these, you know, we can't even afford health insurance.
All because
It's
we
not
live
okay.
in a desirable area. That's what Shannon Rittenberger told us. Desirable does not mean 61% of your people are in the poverty level with chickens and all sorts of things running next to us. So in other words, real estate is mispriced, and those people who have money coming into our area, they need to take tourism. We've got tourism, tax them, do other things. We're not saying that those things can't be met, but we're just doing a plea. It's an emergency.
And why can't we grandfather in or have some clause for those of us who have been in our homes for, I mean, we can't repair our home and we have it's a nice little place, but we can't keep the repairs up because our payments have gone skyrocketed, you know?
We're not asking that everything, it's just that you need to talk to people and get ideas. And we have a group of people in Keystone that were willing to go down to Pier if asked to show up, and then they say, oh, well, I lost your email. And I'm going, I even sent it, read receipt, and they got it on May 9th. No, they lost it. So you guys, it's a plea. And I guess we're speaking for 385 other people.
And as
well.
business owners, we do bring in a certain amount of revenue for certain, I mean, you do.
Yeah, we do.
Well, thank you, guys, and I think, I don't know the exact dates.
Oh, we'll be at
that-
every single
you-
meeting.
You guys know the
We're gonna-
meetings that are coming up this
Now
month?
we know the process.
We know the
I'm
rules.
sorry.
I think Joan has those dates.
Chair, Director of Equalization Shannon Berger said the next meeting on those summer study tax assessments is September 11th, and then again October 9th. There was one held a month or two ago because I did listen to that. I don't know if it's recorded or not, but they are holding those summer study meetings, and you can watch them via either Zoom or Teams or something
How
like that.
come they didn't make it aware of us
Yeah.
when we sent
That
this
was
copy?
that was a state function. I can't say why
Yeah.
they didn't do that, but the next one will be September 11th.
And I think the October 1 is where they're taking public comment.
September.
The September 1? Yeah,
September.
September 1.
When especially I'm writing the letter and they don't contact us, and you're asking for the request of the meetings and they didn't contact us, it just seems, I'm sorry, like that was all used for an election ploy.
Yeah, like it wasn't transparent to me at all.
Well, the September 11th one's.
Is
so
that
the-
here? or-
No, I believe that's here, yeah.
Mr. Chair, so there's three types of property when it comes to assessments. You got ag, other, and owner occupied. And I think what Trish is working on, and I've worked with Trish, is we need to focus on how we can relieve the tax burden on the owner occupied.
And that's what
And
we're
as I said earlier
interested in.
today, I think we're eventually going to have to see some type of other funding. My house in Rochford, I use that for an example at the Hill City meeting. For every dollar I pay in real estate taxes, 65 cents goes to the Hill City School District. There's 6 other taxing districts, but the county itself gets 27 cents out of that dollar. And I think that's where some of the problem is, that we need to sit there and maybe find other funding for the
They're
school
raising
district.
up the tax assessments, what makes them not be qualified for that. And then
Exactly.
that's terrible. You got to change the rules, guys.
Chair.
Ron has the floor.
And Blake Gardner, I've sat down with him, I've sat down with Dennis Kroll, trying to figure out a solution for this. And Dennis says that there's, I think out of the, I don't know how many school districts there are, but there's probably over 100. And there's 4 that don't receive the funding because the glass is too full. Because you know why? Because they sit there and look at the assessed value of the county, they determine how much aid the school's going to get. And because our high assessments in the county, the school gets very little state aid, and so who makes it up? Taxpayer.
And you guys, you don't need to wait. I guess what it is that's so frustrating is we've done all the right things that we were told, and we're not getting a response. You guys need to step in because you're using the money, and you need.
Well, when you go to Pier, let me know. I'll go with you.
We're going to take
We're
a
gonna be in
whole
Pier
frickin'
whenever-
bus
yeah, we
over
will have
there,
a
and I'll
bus.
tell you, it's that serious.
Yeah,
Okay.
No, I
we
agree.
can't sustain this anymore. We just can't.
So thank you for
Thank you for listening.
Ms. Hadcock?
So the bottom line is, guys, Shanna's told us a long time ago, when budgets go up, property taxes go up, so to tell that we need more money when we just spent 6 million, if we're going on a deficit of 6 million, when our growth was only 1.6, the county's outgrowing what the taxpayers are paying. So what happens is, when budgets go up, ladies, it's 101, whether it's schools, cities, or county, your property taxes go up. So to say we need more money from a different entity, first of all, you got to quit spending. So we just listened today about spending issues, and we don't want to cut those. So we sucked up about 11 million in wages that weren't in budgets. We have buildings we're buying for the 15 to 20 years down the road. There's got to be budget cuts. And if that 6 million is not cut, then your property taxes go up. So people can tell you, and I saw it politically all this season in politics, everybody was telling you what you wanted to hear, but your bottom line is, and Shannon Rittberger would tell you, and they'll keep telling you, property taxes are only based on budgets. So when those budgets go up, so does your property taxes. So to ask the taxpayers to suck up some more money from somewhere else, for me, I'm not in favor. We got to learn to live between our means, and then our growth is only 1.6. So if you're growing faster then and spending more money, you guys get the burden. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Roskinen?
We've held 2 meetings in Hill City over the past 2 years, and we talk about budgets and we talk about assessments. And this last meeting, I remember asking the Hill City Prevailer to clearly put in the paper when our budget hearing was going to be. And if I recall, when we had that meeting, I did not see one person from the general public here telling us how we got to spend or not spend. And that's what we need. These budget hearings, we need the general public to get in here and say, I don't want that service, so we'll cut it. But tell us, come to the meetings. Because that last meeting, I've never saw one person here.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Drews?
I'd move we convene as a Board of Adjustment.
I have a motion to go into Board of Adjustment. Second from LaCroy. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Megan Talmadge, Planner. Agenda item A is a subdivision regulation variance, COSV 24-0005. It is to waive road improvements to ordinance 14 road standards. The applicant and owner is Russell and Joyce Payton. The other landowner involved is Margie Helgeson. This is located off of Sheridan Lake Road at 23565 Burgess Road. The current zoning is agriculture district, and there's no flood hazard on the property. When looking at variances, we take a two-pronged approach. They are listed on screen. Staff recommends denial of the subdivision regulation variance because there's no special conditions that exist. But a little bit more about the road in the area. This road accesses 7 lots. With this lot line change, there won't be any more lots added to that. It'll still be 7 and 6 homes. The road is currently 14-foot wide gravel, and the standard is 24-foot wide gravel for agriculture zoning district. Again, staff recommends denial as there's no special condition that exists.
Thank you, Megan. Is there any questions for Megan?
Mr. Chair.
Go to
Go ahead.
Mr. Drews first.
Go ahead.
So is there a road district?
There is. It's Burgess Road District. I did reach out for comment and did not receive comment.
Okay, thank you.
So what's the current road?
The current road is 14-foot wide gravel.
And what are they asking?
They're asking to adjust lot lines to go from, they're just incorporating another couple acres into the lot shown on screen, so the northeastern lot.
And where you turn off the Sharon Lake Road and you start going south, how far is that down to that section line that goes east and west?
It is close to a half a mile.
Half a mile? Is there, I don't know, I just don't know that that warrants a 24-foot surface. That's the issue that I'm having, being it's, that 14-foot has probably worked for 30 or 40 years.
That was, so just recently, there was another subdivision in this area, and that was the consensus last time the previous owner came in and said that, I believe that she was part of the road district. She said that that road was sufficient for their needs.
And
I'm done.
so what brought this to light is that they're just changing the section, or the property lines,
Yes,
increasing, so otherwise nothing else is changing.
exactly.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Laster.
So are they increasing it or adjusting it because they need to meet any kind of setback, or do they, I mean, is it because they're planning to put something in there, like a whole bunch of homes, like they want to partition out that particular lot that they're doing, or they just purchased some land, or they got it surveyed and it was off or something?
Yep. It's just an exchange of land between two property owners.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Drews.
It's all within the same confines of the property that was there. It's just a matter of
Yes.
property lines changing, yes. Thank you.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Move for approval by Hadcock, seconded by Lassiter. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Megan. Look for motion to come out of Board of Adjustments.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Drews, seconded by Lassiter. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brittany Molitor, Planning Director. The Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine planning and zoning items. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. The Planning and Zoning consent agenda contains the following two items. Item A is Plan Unit Development Overlay Review PUR 22-05 for River Country Limited Partnership. Is to review a plan unit development overlay to allow a recreational resort, and the Planning Commission recommended approval of PUR 22-05 with 26 conditions. And item B is Plan Unit Development Overlay Review PUR 23-06 for Horse Creek LLC, and is to review a recreational resort in a commercial district, and Planning Commission recommended approval of PUR 23-06 with 24 conditions.
At this time, is there any members of the public who wish to remove any items from the planning and zoning consent agenda? Seeing none, is there any commissioners who would like to remove any consent agenda items from the planning department?
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Moved by Hadcock,
Second.
seconded by Drews. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item D, Cody.
Cody Sack, environmental planner. Item D is vacation of section line right-of-way COVSL 24-0002. It's to vacate approximately 133 feet of section line right-of-way. The applicant and landowner is Robert and Melanie Tim. Location of the property is 12305 Deerfield Road. Current zoning is rural residential district. Existing land use is residential. Access is off Deerfield Road, and there's no special flood hazard around the property. This was read around for interdepartment review. The highway department is opposed to vacating any section line that does not serve the public's best interest, and the parcels within the old Deerfield Road district. And then the Register of Deeds made the comment that the exhibit needs to be dated by the surveyor. The surveyor has dated the exhibit now and submitted that to our office. Again, the applicants are requesting to vacate approximately 133 feet of section line right-of-way. The portion of section line does not provide access to any properties in the area or to public land, and the public land that is in the area has other access that's already created for it. The portion of section line on the adjacent property to the south has been vacated. Therefore, the section dead ends on this property. That was done February 3rd, 2015. So with that, staff does recommend approval of vacation of section line right away with conditions. Staff would remove condition 1 as the applicant has already submitted an updated exhibit to our office.
So your recommendations for approval with
It would just be with
one condition, and that would be the necessary resolution and exhibits for vacating section line right away be recorded with the Register of Deeds office?
Correct. Yep.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Roskinek.
I'll make the motion to approve COV SL 24-0002 with one condition.
Moved by Roskinek,
Second.
second by Drews. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thanks, Cody. Next, that brings us up to item 16, items from chair and commission members. Are there any items? Seeing none, that brings us up to item 17, meetings and committee reports. And Mr. Laster.
So, Building Committee and Complete Health, I was out of town. Threat Management Group, we will be discussing that in executive session.
Mr. Drew.
Okay. Back on July 17th, attended the Rapid City TIF meeting. 2 new TIFs were discussed for new housing areas. One of my concerns being that the county receive our administrative costs of serving those TIFs. That's going along with legislation adopted this year, which says administrative costs need to be considered, and we know that each year our office, and we know that we have those costs each year with our offices of auditor, treasurer, and equalization. Currently, Auditor Cindy Moeller indicates there's 22 active TIFs in our area. This was also a discussion yesterday on the monthly County Association webinar. Association is urging counties to develop policies consistent across the state in establishing policy on TIF administration costs and keep the fees reasonable as indicated by the new statute. On July 19th, I attended the Black Hills Association of Counties meeting in Sturgis. Heard very positive report from Commissioner LaCroix on the WIR, the Western Interstate Region of NACO meeting, which will be held in Rapid City in May of next year. Hosting members of the 16-state region for their, will be hosting members of the 16-state region for their meeting, and it's being planned in detail. And several members of the NACO staff will be in Rapid City in 2 weeks, looking at potential sites, activities, including workshops for hosting of several hundred members of WIR. Again, that's going to be held in May of next year. July 11th and 16th, since I wasn't able to, I listened to the meeting, but I wasn't able to participate. I couldn't make the audio work at the July 16th meeting. I've been at the NACO annual conference, and they had numerous excellent workshops and seminars. This was held in Tampa. Considerable emphasis is being placed on artificial intelligence and how it is being used. Although AI has been around for many years, it is really becoming prevalent in all facets of our lives, including county governments. A toolkit has been developed by NACO members with 4 key themes. Enable responsible applications, promote policy models, establish an ethical framework, and assist in preparing the workforce. Mental health was a prominent subject at the conference and the role of counties are playing. Mental health issues have become very prominent in recent years. Counties throughout the nation have determined the need to assist in not only trying to create healthy environments for those with mental health challenges, but as a necessary means of trying to hold down costs by treating individuals and keeping them out of jails and the court systems. Many facilities, similar to our pivot point, have been created throughout the country. One of the seminars focused on public land counties and efforts by NACO to assist in wildfire mitigation and economic development in public lands counties. Discussed was the research and dialogue being created between federal, state, tribal, and local governments on the key issues. Again, the opportunity for participation at the WIR conference next May, right here in Rapid City, will give many participants a chance to see the ongoing work on behalf of counties which have challenges because of public lands. And I was not available for the Elevate meeting, and so I'm leaving that up to Commissioner LaCroix.
Thank you, Mr. Drews. Ron Roskinek.
Planning Commission, basically the main topic at the Planning Commission was the proposed wind turbine project, which is a hybrid with the solar field. And that would, if approved, that would be the first hybrid, I believe, in the state of South Dakota. We made the motion to continue that so that there could be further research into permitting with the South Dakota Public Works Commission. I had a subsequent meeting with Lenny Roth, who is one of the founders of this company that is proposing the wind turbines and solar field, just so that I could ask additional questions that weren't really presented at the planning meeting. Building Committee, we basically did an update on the various projects, and we looked at alternatives relative to the jail. I think as time goes on, there's going to be some options presented, and we are just looking at the various options and what the cost might be of each option. Pennington County Housing Redevelopment, I'll let Commissioner Hadcock expand on that. That's all I got.
Thanks, Ron. Ms. Hadcock.
Yes, I went to the TIF review committee. I voted for 2 out of the 3 TIFs. The administrative costs I did bring up, the 10,000, and then the 20,000 is what the city uses for their administrative costs. I did not know that at the time. But it's good to be on those committees and kind of see what everybody else is doing. We have a really good group that was there. My issue on the second one wasn't the development, because they were annexing into the city. It was north of Reservoir Road. It was the drainage issues that it was going to cause for our county and the smart growth of that development. And I did talk to the developer afterwards, and he understood as well. The drainage is going south, whether it be on the east or the west side of that area, and was going to cause some major issues because we already have some from some of the Rapid City drainage coming towards or going south on us already. So still going to be issues in the future, and it's something I think we ought to address. And I know the planning department is moving that way, so I appreciate it. But again, some of the members agreed with smart growth, but they also agreed with moving forward on development. I think moving east is going to be a problem for us if we don't get ahead of the infrastructure that's coming towards the south of us. So that's why I did not vote for it. The Pennington County Housing Redevelopment became the chairman of that again, and then Jermaine Little Bear is the vice chair. That was about basically RAD conversion, but I also asked if they'd give us an update, just like I did on some of our stuff today, on how much we have spent moving forward on this RAD conversion. Where are we now? What do we plan on using or doing in the future? And what are our goals for the Pennington County housing? Because if you don't know all the costs, the bottom line is all those numbers should be accounted for and then move forward with according to the cash flow that we have at that point. So same thing we're asking for here. What else did I go to? Met with the landowners on the solar wind hybrid. I was the one with Brittany and Jason, those guys that did that ordinance on that. It could be tweaked a little bit, but a lot of it's really good, and we met with, back in the day, with people that liked solar, some that had solar in their houses, bigger companies, and then people that didn't really think that solar and green was great. And I think with Brittany and Jason back in the day that we came up with a good ordinance. Like I said, there's some things we need to change on a little bit. But I met with the landowners that were out at the new site that there's going to have with Lenny Roth would be the business owner on the hybrid solar and wind. And the landowners met with first with Jerry Durr and Travis Lassiter and the planning department. And then other commissioners already met with Lenny Roth, met with him and Quentin Riggins, for full disclosure, and talked about where they needed to go. And the bottom line was the public meeting should have been done, that the planning department, which was Jason and Brittany at the meeting, and Jason asked them more than once to have a public meeting, and it never happened. And now, at this point, it sounds like maybe August 22nd or September 9th, they will have that public meeting if any of the commissioners would like to go to.
Maybe the 26th.
Okay, so new change on that. Anyway, so far, I haven't made up my mind, of course, but I see good on both sides and bad on both sides. But bottom line is, are we ready to have another solar, wind, green energy east in New Underwood area? The landowners are not in favor of that right now, but our job is to see both sides, so I met with both sides.
Thank you, Deb. Gary covered Black Hills Area County Association. Compensation Committee meeting I attended concentrated on educating the employees on the study and so forth, and so that's what was the big discussion during that meeting, was employee education, and so on that. Complete Health, the biggest item on our agenda was the accreditation of the new certified PAs. And so trying to get them certified, they hired two that came on along with a mental health counselor, and trying to get them accredited so they could start insuring. They're working, but in order to turn it into insurance, they got to go through a certification that they're working through. So that was the big one on that. And I covered the NACO Association last meeting, and Gary did a good job on that on the annual conference. One of the other things, I did have a meeting with some representatives from Black Hills Energy. Me and Ron had a meeting with them, and their discussions on the growth that our community is needing, and they've done a study, seeing what they're going to need in the next 20 years, and they're looking forward on that and on a possibility of another substation that's ran off propane. And Ron did ask quite a bit about solar power and how much that is, and how that affects it, and they said that helps, but it's still unreliable at times, and that's why this new equipment that they're looking at is very high tech and would work out best for them. So we'll know more about that later on. It's just something that they were informing us on. As far as the Elevate meeting that I attended, that was very informative. They talked about some of the work that they were doing in their budget, and we also talked about some of the startup companies coming in, and one that was brought up was the Caterpillar. Caterpillar was was an old school mines and technology student that went to work for Caterpillar and then came back and started a sub-company here in Rapid City, and this was probably about 3 or 4 years ago, or maybe a little bit longer, but now they're going to double their footprint. And so that's expansion on that part. That was the highlight of that meeting. One other meeting phone call that I had, just for informational, was the city must have a new tax increment financing coordinator or something along those lines, but in talking with him, I'd already talked to a council member, John Roberts, and they were talking about doing away with the TIF committee, that step is, I think John had mentioned that that's what, he didn't feel it was necessary, and the TIF director, I don't recall his name, he was calling to ask for suggestions, and I said I'd bring it to the commission as far as seeing what you guys thought on that process. What they're talking about is trying to eliminate. My suggestion was to him, if the council does that, they need to still keep us noticed, which would have to send out 5. I said, you send a notice to all commissioners and the auditor, if that's the route they go. But I just wanted to make the commission aware of, that's what they're looking at. If you have comments, you could contact him, or you can relay them on to me, and we can talk to him about it, but that's
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Drews.
So they're talking about eliminating what portion?
Well, there's a 3-step system. You get the county, the school, and the city council for that TIF meeting that you guys are assigned to. Well, they're saying they're having a hard time getting a quorum when they do have one. And some of the frustration is that that step, it still goes to the planning commission, goes through their staff first, and then through there, then to the planning commission, then to the city council. And they felt that that TIF committee wasn't necessary, is what they said. Since they're having difficulties getting people for attendance for a quorum. So this is something, I first heard it from Councilman John Roberts, the president. He'd mentioned it to me, and then the coordinator contacted me and asked what my suggestion was. And I said, if you do away with it, you got to give notice. But I think the original reason that step was put in was probably more, and I told him this was more for transparency and notice for all the 3 entities, the city, school, county. And so, but I just wanted to let you guys know that's what they're talking about.
Okay. Seems to me that statute provides for that, but I have to verify that.
Yeah, from talking to councilmen, it was the mayor's position to incorporate that extra step. It wasn't state required. But with that, that's all I have on that. Oops. Next, I'd look for a motion to go into executive session pursuant to SDCL 125-2 for -6.
That would be my motion.
Hold on. And also for the contractual pending litigation 125-2 also. That's your motion.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Drews. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, look for a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
By Lassiter, seconded by LaCroy. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Lassiter.
move to adopt the Pennington County Employee and Facility Incident Response Guide.
Second.
Second.
Second by Drews. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Lassiter, second by Haggard. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.